All set to go then for qualifying ahead of the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend for FIA Formula 3 here at the wonderful Hungaroring. This is going to be something special. Let's go over to Chris McCarthy and Alex Brundle as we get ready for the start.
3 rounds of the FIA Formula 3 Championship, and with that, the top 3 drivers are split by just 7 points. Welcome everyone to round 8 of the FIA Formula 3 Championship. Our venue for this round takes us to Budapest and the Hungaroring circuit. Very hot temperatures expected throughout the week.
And the start of qualifying has been delayed.
With over 50 degrees, almost 60 degrees track temperature, a delayed start to qualifying, but here to talk you through that small delay and throughout the 30 minutes qualifying session. Myself, Chris McCarthy, alongside me, Alex Brundle. Of course, we have plenty in store for you for the delay. We will get going in just over 5 minutes time as we look at our championship leader, Gabriele Mini.
I was going to say, I hope I get more than the delay to talk for. I'm very much looking forward to the qualifying session as we stare into the eyes of championship leader Gabriele Mini. Cars delayed into the pit lane, which is why the session will be slightly delayed. They need a little bit of time to get themselves sorted out as they're hurriedly doing. You can see the flags on the top of the pit building there, denoting the wind, which has whipped up quite a lot since the early part of the day. We have had free practice earlier on today, which was topped by Campos driver Mari Boyer, but they'll go at it again with a couple of sets of the hard compound tyres to try to put themselves in the best possible position for qualifying. The wind making lives difficult earlier on. A tailwind through turn 12 has led to a lot of areas, through turn 11 I should say, has led to a lot of errors in that area of the circuit.
Yes, it was Mari Boyer who went fastest earlier in practice. We had a 45-minute practice session earlier in cooler conditions than this, but still a warm session earlier. Mari Boyer fastest, 134.236 ahead of Martinius Stenchorn, the returning Martinius Stenchorn, then Luke Browning, one of the top 3 in the championship. He's third. You're looking at the driver second in the championship. Arvid Lindblad just a point ahead of him, six further up the road is then Gabriele Mini. Noel Leon was 4th, then Leo Fornaroli in 5th place, then it was Montoya, Shields, Ramos, Mini and Dunn rounding out the top 10 as the fans getting placed to have a view of the circuit. One thing we talked about a lot, Alex, was the technical points of this circuit. It's one of the circuits which is going to be most critical when it comes to qualifying. Overtaking, not the easiest around this circuit. Qualifying, perhaps one of the most challenging around this circuit.
We've got 2 DRS zones, one that goes down to turn 1 and then an immediately sequential one down towards turn 2, but it's still relatively difficult to overtake here. The corners, quite short braking zones and long radii, so difficult to get inside your competitor, which is where you need to be so often for a successful overtake. And we see a lot of contact in that early part of the lap as well. So as you say, Chris, quite correctly, qualifying ever important here. It's another one of those circuits, a bit like Barcelona, where the jump towards a new tyre is absolutely massive in comparison to the performance of an old tyre. That's because of the number of traction zones and the general mechanical reliance of the cars around this circuit, not least in conditions as hot as this. 55 degrees track temperature, 31 degrees in the air, one of the hottest sessions of the year outside the Middle East, basically,
yes,
for the feeder series cars. And they're really going to be feeling it out there. It's going to be interesting to see how the tyre performs in those conditions for the drivers and how many laps they're going to be able to do, even on the hard compound tyre, which will be competitive potentially for pole position.
Well, it gives us time, whilst we have this delay, to talk about the championship and where we sit in it. Luke Browning, third place, did drop to third after the chaos, I think, of Silverstone, the race that changed all the time. He started pole position, looking to become the second driver in FIA Formula 3 to get a hat-trick of poles after Logan Sargent. He's third, 7 points back from Gabriele Mini, then Arvid Lindblad. People would assume that we're in a three-way fight, but as you correctly said earlier, 39 points, the maximum up for grabs for drivers in a weekend. 3 rounds to go, so we have about 117 points up for grabs here over 3 rounds. When we have 41 points between the top 7, we've got, I'd say, about 7 drivers in realistic contention.
Yeah, absolutely so. In the Teams Championship, things much less open, aren't they? Prema have very much run away with it at the front of the field and stolen march on everyone else. But in the Drivers' Championship, incredibly tight indeed, particularly between those top 3 competitors. Coming off different runs of form relatively recently, a good pair of point-scoring finishes for Gabriele Mini, a podium in the feature race in Silverstone. Arvid Lindblad, of course, riding high from doing the double back at the British Grand Prix. And Luke Browning with more of a difficult weekend. 24th in the sprint race was not what he wanted, managed to grab some points in the feature. That's how the 3 championship contenders come into this one from a very different weekend, a cooler, much unseasonably cooler weekend at Silverstone to this burning hot Hungaroring, where they need to try now to get the laps in. Qualifying is going to start at 3:10. That's in about 30 seconds. So drivers will be focusing in on making sure they get a nice track position, if indeed they do charge out to get their banker laps in.
Well, Sebastian Montoya, he's getting his car fired up. Not the season he would have expected points-wise, but he's got a chance to go and get some prizes in these last 3 rounds. And that's what it's going to be all about for those drivers. Not looking at a championship fight here. They've still got a chance to go and get some podiums, some race wins, to add to their next season, their hopes of getting into a good seat for next season. Okay. We have the green light at the end of the pit lane, and with that, the cars will roll out onto the circuit for 30 minutes of qualifying in round 8 of the FIA Formula 3 Championship.
So these are drivers making sure that they get a banker in, and this is often indicative of the fact that they're not going to get that many laps in on the tyre. So they're making sure that they get a lap in before any kind of yellow, any kind of stoppage, or something else halts the session. We have seen incidents already that brought out virtual safety cars during the free practice process, so drivers hedging against that as the heat haze rises off the circuit.
And also getting one within limits as well. That's what fell foul of Dino Beganovic at Silverstone as well for the 2nd year in a row.
Yeah, just constant problems from him then. Right, as that is a problem, a big problem for Tommy Smith, who has got no wheels on the car, engine covered, and it doesn't look like he's going to get started either as well. So, until it's time for a shouty bit, we're leaving it with the world feed because it's so hot in the commentary box right now. We've had to switch our lights off, and I'm sat down. It's too hot. Jack, hello, how are you doing?
Doing all right. My voice is getting a bit better as the day progresses, which is quite nice. But yeah, it is boiling over here in the UK. Honestly, I don't envy anybody who lives here right now. It's quite hot. I've got like 2 windows open. Do you have windows in your commentary box? I don't know if you do.
We have a door open, but the problem is that it's a garage, so it's heavy brick.
Oh yeah.
But also soundproofing. So the box is very hot. We've measured it. It's
because I don't have soundproofing.
Yeah, it's 48 degrees in this commentary box, and I'm dying in here.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I'm spending as much time as possible without my headset on. Sorry, but it's like death or death. So over to the world feed.
It's completely different scenarios. It was a weather thing. We're not expecting rain around Hungaroring anytime soon, but it's all about getting those laps in on the board as we see the drivers heading round the final corner to go on to the start-finish straight at full speed for the first time.
A little bit of a build potentially for some drivers, but we'll see how quickly they go for it here. With such massive track temperature, they may choose to begin their laps almost immediately. No, it looks like some at least are continuing with the build process. If some continue with the build process, then realistically they all have to continue with the build process. There'll be too much traffic out on the racetrack.
Yeah, so it's been a signal then that we are all going to continue for another build process. And with that, we have time to go and hear from one of our championship contenders, the driver on your screen, Luke Browning, part of the Williams Academy. And we spoke to him about how qualifying is being so crucial and so technical. He spoke to us about that yesterday.
Qualifying here is going to be crucial. Obviously, it's very difficult to get it together. I think I've rewatched every qualifying back from 2018, 2019, so we're well prepared. I think it's a very different track in terms of it's very technical. It's tough to get the lap together, and I think often the perfect lap, you see a bigger distance here between 1st and 10th than we would do, for example, in Barcelona.
So good preparation there from Luke Browning, watching back sessions. Good practice. Is that something you did yourself, Alex, as a driver?
Absolutely.
This is a mess. Copy that.
Maybe that's all he learned.
Right.
That it is a mess, and it's really a mess in those final few corners. You've got to try to get the track position here, and so often it's the case that you actually plot out the previous sessions, what the pole sitter did, and look back through it almost graphically to try to work out where you want to be. And then, of course, as soon as you begin that process, you realise that no two of these sessions are the same. And as soon as you've started to try to plan it, you get yourself in trouble. It's the two cars at the front of the field. Christian Mansell leading them, looks to be the first car that will take to the line.
So the 3 championship contenders, Gabriel. Luke Browning, the number 14 Williams Academy livery car. Those are our top 3. As we watch the ART number 23 of Christian Mansell taking us onto the first flying lap.
Shimmy through the exit of turn 1 for Mansell. Now he's got to try to make it down to the apex of turn 2 and not run too wide to make sure turn 3 is absolutely flat out. You can tell by the new Astro on the outside how easy it is to get wide through there. Then the unsighted apex of turn 4, the main track limits challenge of the middle sector of the lap, back across the road on the way into turn 5. Neat and tidy, bit conservative so far for the ART of Mansell.
Up towards the chicane, Christian Mansell comes 7th in the championship. Big opportunities for the Australian, and qualifying has been a really good point of his so far this season. Still chasing that first win. Can he put himself in pole position to do so? We're in the early phases, but it's all about getting that banker lap in, and he's gone wide. Well, that's going to be lap gone.
There's that win we've seen throughout the whole of free practice. The tailwind there causing Mansell to go wide. He'll have to try and get out of it and go again.
It's Sophia Flörsch. Sophia Flörsch has spun. She'll keep going, but that brings out the yellows.
It's his teammates' lap here.
Yeah, Sophia Flörsch spinning at T11. Yellow flags. That's going to affect the drivers coming through. Stenshorn was one of them. Kasper Stuka, the number 8 car, coming next. Those drivers that were before the incident would have got through in time. Stuka was affected. Let's see then. Christian Mansell's lap is gone. Van Hoopen's lap is not. And Van Hoopen will be the driver that briefly goes to the top. Let's see if he can stay there. Alex Dunn, 2nd place. Fornaroli 3rd as we jump on board with championship contender Luke Browning round the final corner. Up.
Here comes the first lap times then as well. Browning goes into 1st position. Then it's Goethe who's on top now. Mini moving down. And I think, Jack, this is what we're going to see. Majority of the session, so many of them coming up in the dying seconds. It's going to be like a 3-phase qualifying.
Kind of like it is in F1. It's at each time these drivers are going to get even quicker as the session goes on, as the track gets more rubber on it. It's going to be really interesting just to see who's going to be able to master the Hungaroring. A pretty tricky, tight circuit. This one, very difficult to overtake on. The race itself, unfortunately, I'm not going to be there, but at least I'm going to get to watch qualifying here.
Beganovic goes top, then it was Bedrin. Now it's Tanasapol into Pruvazak who's gone top. It's an AIX, 1, 2, 3, Dufek into Pruvazak, and Bedrin are top for the AIX squad as off the track Christian Mansell at turn 12, and there several drivers going wide, and that was Sophia Flörsch spinning.
In that area.
The car is undrivable.
Sophia saying that the car is undrivable. Wow. So everything is completely lost it.
Harsh.
Big lockup as well.
Very harsh.
Clan Shields has had his lap time deleted for track limits. Now we see why on the TV pictures. Everyone's sliding around, and that's Sophia jumping over more. Gambio Mini doing the same thing. Forlaroli through the chicane, sliding the rear. So there's no grip out there just yet for these guys in terms of heating up their tyres. It's what is it? Track temperature 56 degrees, air temperature 31 degrees. It is baking over there. It's baking here as well. 27 degrees here in the UK right now. It's as hot in Hungary as it is here, I've just been told. Wow.
Wow.
Oh, why is it always on when I'm in a bloody commentary box? Is it so hot? I mean, they hate me.
I feel for you, man. I really feel
I'm
for
going
you.
to sit back down. Honestly, you get lightheaded because it's so hot and humid, you can't breathe. Right, I'm going to head back to the World Feed.
This qualifying section.
Fantastic stuff from AIX Racing. Now they've gone 1, 2 and 3 so far in this session. Josh Dufek, Tisanopol Intrapuvazak and Nikita Bedrin all going to the top. And we see them 1, 2 and 3.
And look at that. One lap. Box from all of these all of these characters. It's just not available to them, meaning that drivers like Mansell, who lost out in that phase of qualifying, don't get to cool and push again. They've realised through the free practice process, some of them, that they are unable to keep on improving. A driver who is trying to improve still is Leo Fornaroli. He has improved through the first and the second sector, but he's a long way away from the optimum lap here. Green for him, but not better than the overall best.
Leo Fornaroli coming into the final 2 corners, and we could see him there just trying to push, but he's going to come in for a stop. So he comes now into the pit lane, and that's going to be Fornaroli in for a change.
Several Tridents continuing to try to push. We're hearing Sami Megatinif just down the road managed a better early phase of the lap, but then went wide. So that's it then. It's going to be a long old wait for the end, isn't it? Because they're already putting on the next set of tyres. It's going to be interesting to see how they run it now. 19 minutes on the clock, a set of laps done. They're binning a set of tyres as not prepared for the optimum lap. And there's going to be a bit of a hollow middle to this session as they all wait then to try to deliver the lap. It's going to be interesting to see who now chooses to run in the gap with the amount of waiting around that we saw at the end of that first run.
I don't know, did we have all the other cars on new tyres there straight away? If it is, this is a fantastic start for AIX Racing to have gone out and got a 1, 2, 3. Given their form so far this season. This is Sami Megatunif running just a little bit wide. Let's have a look at this.
Same issue as Mansell.
Yeah.
Just they pitch the car in to the final part of those sweepers in the middle of the lap. You build temperature, and then eventually the rear just cries enough and doesn't want to perform for you. It will be interesting to see who has carried tyres over, and there may well be drivers looking to run again now in the gap. Indeed, several drivers looking to run again now in the gap.
Yeah. So we're going to see some possible changes now, but nevertheless, Josh Dufek, Sanapol Intrapuvazak, Nikita Bedrin, a 1, 2, 3. Nikita Bedrin on the podium here last year, and it was a great result for him to get that podium here. It was a first podium for him as a driver last year when he did so, and that was for the JBMotorsports team, as we see a lot of the drivers rolling out now and some on new tyres.
Yeah, there are 4 sets of the hard compound tyre available, one of which has been used by all drivers in free practice, so they can go a decent way in qualifying if they so choose, in order to try and get the best possible grid position. 12 is the magic number in Formula 2 qualifying. That's where the reverse grid for the sprint race ends. So the driver who's 12th at the end of qualifying gets popped on pole for the sprint race tomorrow. And that is a key factor. So if we talk about in or out of the top 12, that's what we refer to. anybody who qualifies outside those top 12 positions starts where they qualified in both races. So it's somewhat of a cut-off, isn't it, Chris?
Yeah. So we will see in the sprint race the top 12 reverse. So Van Hoopen, who's been in the top 12 every session so far this season, he's only one of 2 drivers to do that so far this season, is Lawrence Van Hoopen, to be in the top 12 every session, along with Arvid Lindblad. That consistency key in keeping Arvid Lindblad where he is in the championship. Van Hoopen has been the other hugely impressive driver to do that. It's all about being in that top 12. The cutoff there sits with Mary Boyer so far.
Boyer, the driver fastest earlier on, and will then come round for another opportunity. Arvid Lindblad's found himself a nice little gap there, hasn't he? And it's somewhat more of a sensible little group here who found themselves a gap led by Luke Browning as they make their way through the outside of turn 14. Looks still to be a build lap potentially for Luke Browning. Let's see if he attached the braking zone. No, he's already on the brakes on his way down towards turn 1.
Well, let's see what Luke Browning can do. It should be noted, by the way, Alex Dunn has a 10-place grid penalty for the sprint race, so he'll be looking to get high up the order as possible. It won't affect his grid position for the feature race. So this grid position, as you see to the left, will be exactly as they start to come the feature race on Sunday. Well, there you can see Arvid Lindblad. He was the Silverstone double winner, qualifying very key, and has been where he's been so consistent in the top 12 every session, and qualifying is what we caught up with him about yesterday.
In general, the F3 format, the races are quite early. So yes, it's warm, but for example, the feature race at 8:20 or 8:30, I don't think it'll be too bad. I think quali will have the biggest effect maybe, because we'll do it at 3 o'clock, so right at the hottest part of the day. So that'll be a challenge to even just be able to try and maintain the tires during the single lap. And then yeah, we'll see in the races. I think degradation we've seen so far this year has been high. So I think even if the feature race is quite early, I think it'll still be a challenge.
Good to hear from Arvid Lindblad.
Oof.
Oh, then look at this.
It's getting rough, isn't it, in the mid-pack? Red Bull cars everywhere as they try to make their way through. Montoya and Wirtz have been noted for a collision, presumably on their way in to starting their flying lap. But as they jockey for position to try to get the lap in, this is one of the closest final couple of corners of the year, and they've not got a lot of time now, not got a lot of real estate to try to get their gap. Browning, though, in the hot seat out front, needs to be getting on with it here, otherwise he's going to have somebody lunge for his gap.
Yeah, we're time to be out front from Josh Dufek from AIX Racing, a 134.414. If you want to be in the top 12, you've got to do a 135.3. And look at the queue coming into the final corner, Alex.
Tyre temperature bleeding away. The track temp will be helping with that, but there's only so long that they'll want to wait. Browning's gone with the DRS open down towards turn 1. Nice bit of road ahead of him, but a big swapper as he heads down to the first turn.
He is currently in 7th place. Lindblad in 9th. Mini just about in that top 12 in 11th. Those are top 3 in the championship as they come down towards turn 2. So they're scattered down the bottom 12 places. Big opportunities available, particularly for the man you're watching on screen, Luke Browning, up towards turn 4 on the brakes, and he's purple through the first sector.
Oh, catches a huge oversteer through the mid-corner of turn 4, and another big one through the outside of turn 5. They've overpressured the rear tyre slightly for Browning, and he's going to suffer now all the way through the rest of the lap. I'll be surprised if he doesn't throw this one away. Purple in S1, but he's got horrible balance through the middle.
Josh Dufek now is the current driver leading. Luke Browning, the one trying to beat him. Is his lap going to be safe? Because Luke Browning is struggling through the second sector. Let's see. No, Luke Browning is still a 10th and a bit up as they come down towards now the third sector. We're riding on board with the Williams Academy driver. 2 more corners to go. Can he take the time necessary?
He's still carrying speed, Browning. I'm not sure he'll look back at it as the neatest lap he's ever done, but if he's managed to retain the apex speed, it still could be a good one. Across the line in the high-tech, DRS open. I think he's going to go up towards the top. Only P2 for Browning.
P2 he goes. Laurens van Hoopen goes to provisional pole position. 134.316 for the Dutch driver for ART. So that's briefly split the AIX Racing drivers up, but they still have all three of them in the top 10 as we look at what Dino Beganovic's view was. Look at this.
Yeah.
Q jump.
Oh.
They stayed in the racing line in the last corner.
Whoa.
Beganovic just gets frustrated, goes for it, and then finds his way blocked. But there's so many cars ahead of him as he come across the line.
Yeah, well, this is just getting absolutely impossibly messy now. Noel Leon goes to the top, 134.174. But Jack, we've just been seeing as well, the amount of queue jumping that's going on, no one's getting a lap time in because the tyres are overheating as compared to the can't get temperature into them. Track temperature now 56.5 degrees. It's insane out there.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much queue jumping taking place. It's not like the tube station over here in the UK. You know, anyone who knows Brits don't really queue jump, but you got a lot of people queue jumping. It's just messy. I don't know if it reminds you of.
Sorry, look at Fowler Riley, 134.173, a thousandth of a second difference to Noel Leon. Fowler Riley has pole by a thousandth. That's insane. And it wasn't even a clean lap. Anyway, do continue your point.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, like, it reminds me a lot of, you might remember Monza a few years ago, where we had the messiest qualifying session ever, quite possibly, where no one wanted to get a lap in. Have a queue up here for Gabriel Mini to get through. He's not on the best of lap times. I think he might... Is he going to back out of this? Because this isn't the greatest lap in the world.
Several drivers are diving into the pit lane, but some are still on push laps. Gabriel Mini is going to complete this lap time as he exits turn 14, up towards the line now in the F3. Is he faster or not? Up to 15th, 134.872. But the tyres overheating, they can't keep it in. Half the field now dive into the pit lane with 10 minutes to go. It is a 3-run strategy in this 30-minute session. And we're seeing now it coming through. And the box, by the way, hotting up massively. This, a moment at turn 4 for Ollie Goethe. And that's what lost his that time. I got here as well.
Ooh, a little wheelie there.
Just kept it together and slams back on the track. So, half the cars coming back into the pit lane. Gabriel Mini still up there as well. 10 minutes to go. Back to the world feed.
Investigated after the session a turn 11 incident for impeding. So the stewards are across it, the race director is across it, and it's getting very messy, isn't it, in those final few corners of the lap on the roll in. 9 minutes 45 to go in this qualifying session. Let's see what they've got left in terms of tyres and time. So
your top 12, remember we reversed that. Currently, Leo Fornaroli on for pole position. We've got Noel Leon, who would join him on the front row, only 1,000th of a second back. We've got a lap deleted there, so that's changed. That means it's going to be an all AIX Racing row 1 for the sprint race. Let's go through the rest of the top 12 first. It's Santiago Ramos 3rd, Laurens van Hoopen 4th, Josh Dufek. That would be his best qualifying result by far, his best so far, 13th. He's P5. Luke Browning P6, then Megatuniff, Mansell, Voisin, Tramnitz, and then the 2 AIX Racing cars, 11th, 12th. That would loop them up to the front row for the sprint race tomorrow. What a result that would be for AIX Racing. 8 points for them so far this season. They'd have a chance to score huge points tomorrow.
So head over the cockpit then for JP Montoya. He's going to lose that lap, unfortunately, for track limits at turn 14. They will have one more set of tyres. So they're going to throw all the tyres they possibly can, all the toys they possibly can at this qualifying session. They all know they must be within that top 12 if they have any hope of getting a decent result this weekend.
And the main two drivers are Gabriele Mini, 14th on the road, but championship leader, currently 14th, and second in the championship, Arvid Lindblad, is 19th. There he is, and what's going through his mind right now?
Absolutely. Also to back in Monaco, Gabriele Mini is looking at a very difficult qualifying session indeed. Two-time race winner in the last 2 races, Arvid Lindblad, currently sitting 19th in the next qualifying session. Such is the nature of Formula 3 this year. That'll be a bit of a back out, will it? Oh, whoops, hope our cameraman's okay there. That'll be a bit of a back out of front wing then for Arvid Lindblad to try to get the car back into the balance window. They're finding more oversteer than they thought out there because of the high track temperature.
Yeah, it's all getting everyone just trying to get themselves together just to get back out on the track. As you mentioned, we're going to have one more run at this, and then we will have the grid decided. With that, let's take a breath and hear from the driver who currently leads the championship, Gabriele Mini. We spoke to him about qualifying yesterday.
We're not in a great positioning in the pit lane. Of course, we are one of the last teams, so we know we have to plan everything very well, let's say, to try and not be in the pack. So we want to aim to be at the front as much as possible. Of course, as you said, it's a very short track, so it will be very tricky, like to not catch the last cars, even for the first drivers. But I think we can plan it as much as we want, but we will see really in the moment it will happen. I think the goal is to really try and take a gap before the start of the lap. Do not end up behind 2 slow cars, and then try to do your best.
He makes a good point. It can take as long as 45 seconds for the 30-car Formula 3 field to clear the end of the pit lane. So if you go for it and actually go too quickly on your outlap, you can actually catch the cars peeling out of the pit lane, and you just get this endless train of Formula 3 cars making their way around. That's why you see drivers running at subtly different times. Fornaroli leaning on the brake pedal there to try to build front tyre temperature in this final set of hard compound tyres for the session. We've seen those front brakes being blanked as well, despite it being 31 degrees in the air. They're so desperate to get that front tyre temperature in, and as they creep around then, they're going to have another go at it. Press copy, press paste to the runs that we've seen already in this session, but we're going to see another shake-up of the order before it's over.
Right, here we go then. 5 minutes and 20 seconds to go. Oh no, that's an ART car. Oh, well, briefly slowing down and then getting going again.
Yeah, it looked like Mansell actually, just trying to play with something on the steering wheel, and then continued on with his pit exit. They're generating the gaps at pit exit to try to give themselves half a chance on track. Drivers will have been chatting away to their engineers about how best to manage this process. They use the experience from the previous runs to try to figure out what they're going to do next.
So a reminder, to the left-hand side of the screen, your timing tower, top 12 reversed. We have our top 2 in the championship, 14th and 19th, as Fornaroli comes straight back into pit lane.
Interesting to see what Fornaroli does here, whether he will come back to the box or whether he'll just do a drive through the pit lane to get himself the track position he's looking for. So often, you quantify the gap that you want to make, and then you drive all the way through the pit lane to give yourself exactly that gap, because it's a known drop back.
Right, okay. Yeah, and it looks like that's exactly what he did. So there we go. A great insight. Leo Fornaroli will just come straight back out. There we go, yeah. Good stuff. And yeah, and there we can see exactly why. Here come the rest of the field out. Luke Browning is on a second build lap, and then he'll go for his flying lap. And it really is only one lap we're seeing them do. Mansell.
So I reckon Christian Mansell may have had a starter motor issue here.
Right.
And has now bump-started the car and gone out of the pit lane.
Right.
And the high air temperature is often a reason for that. When you get heat soak, as you stop in the pit lane, it can fry the starter motor. So I reckon that is what's happened for Christian Mansell.
Right. So Christian Mansell did get going in the end. And for him so far, this is a pretty good session, 8th place in the top 12. It's a very good session for Noel Leon. He's only 1,000 back from Fornaroli's, the closest session we've seen all year in terms of gaps between the top 2. He only needs to find 1,000th of a second. Let's see if he can go and find it now.
It's spreading out then around the circuit. 3 minutes left to run. We've kind of yet to see this final flurry of laps ignite, haven't we? As they're all holding their cards close to their chest, just trying to find the optimum possible gap and stay out of the traffic jam, if at all possible, that will definitely be there eventually through turn 13 and 14.
Arvid Lindblad needs to find a big time, otherwise the door is opened for big gains to be made for Luke Browning. Likewise, Gabriele Mini. All could be made on one lap around the Hungaroring. Let's join someone who's always been in the top 12 this season. Laurens van Hoopen will take us over the line on what could be big flying laps in this FIA Formula 3 Championship as we come down towards the first corner for the last time in this qualifying session.
Christian Mansell's been noted for that push in the pit lane, so the race director not liking that one too much. Van Hoopen, the first driver, his teammate, going for a concerted qualifying effort, and it's looking nicely plugged in, isn't it? Not too much activity on the steering wheel of that ART. Easy flat, of course, through turn 3 and up towards turn 4, which is a take a breath and turn in left-hander over the top of the crest.
Now he comes up towards turn 5. Laurens van Hoopen, it's looking very good for him. He's up on his lap and he's going to have Kian Shields move out the way for him. So Laurens van Hoopen, a clear run now into the chicane as he comes in towards the second sector. Will come through 8 and this takes us all the way to 11. One mistake here and it can all go wrong.
Like that. He's just lost the rear of the car as well, just twitched out massively at the back, but Van Hoopen, big slide coming out at 12. That was not what he needed. He's only 22 thousandths off the pace of Forlaroli at the moment. But honestly, Jack, that was a huge slide coming out of 12.
No, he's done really well to save that. What a nice little slide that one was. Do you know what would be even funnier if he now goes quickest? That would be the funniest thing. Because he has been all over the place with this lap.
Yellow flags out in sector 2 and 3. Van Hoopen crosses the line. Is he any quicker? Yes! Yes! 133.935. Solov second, 134.168. Van Hoopen can be everywhere, but he's still P1. Red flag with 35 to go. And the red flag as into the wall goes Luke Browning, the championship leader, has crashed out of qualifying, and the red flag comes out, and Laurens van Hoopen has pole position here in Hungary with 24 seconds on the clock. Wow! So that's put Tanasipol into Pruvazak. Would that put him on reverse grid pole position for tomorrow? It would. Tanasipol into Pruvazak gets his first ever pole. The session will not be resumed. And that has completely changed everything on its head. So Mini's out of position. Goethe is out of position. Boyer. Browning's going to start 7th, but will lose his best time for causing the red flag. Laurens van Hoopen has pole position for the feature race on Sunday. It'll be an ART 1-2, but it will be an AIX on pole for the sprint race, and Tanasipol into Pruvazak has got it for the sprint tomorrow. Wow!
From Boyston too, on the front row with him.
Yeah. Let's have a look what happened to Browning. I assume, oh, hang on, that's a 31 going off the track, and Browning's came in backwards. So that was Joseph Loke going through, and then Browning's going to have a twitch mid-corner. I wonder if he sees the same thing that happens to Joseph Loke and gets distracted. Loke goes, no, he wasn't seeing it. I just went round on him. The tyres are too hot that they don't work. They effectively become chewing gum out there. Well, Jack, that was insane. What a good grid we've got for both races actually lined up. This is going to be fascinating for Formula 3.
I'm just gutted I'm missing these races, man, because this is looking like some lineup for both races. And not only that, can I just shout out to Van Hoopen for getting pole with the lap where he looked like he was going to put it into the wall. Incredible effort from him to lock ART out onto the front row.
What a grid we have lined up. Red flag out then. Let's hand back to the world feed as we heard from our pole sitter Van Hoopen.
Let's go, guys, finally. It's not the way we wanted, but let's go. Finally. I told you I had a good feeling about this one. I will listen to you more. I think we should
Yes, we're very happy down at ART, but yeah, absolutely, that's at the discretion, race directors, stewards, etc. It will be interesting to see. To my memory, it will be the first application of those regulations that we've seen this year.
Yeah.
If that is the case for Browning, but in any case, he sits at the moment in 7th place, but also sits at the moment in the outside wall at turn 11.
Yeah, we will see. Basically, keep your eyes peeled on that one, and I think he knows that as well, as will his team. But let's give the deserved attention to Laurens van Hoopen, who takes his first pole position in Formula 3, and he absolutely deserves that. He is now the only driver in FIA Formula 3 this season to have qualified in the top 12 in every single session so far this season, and his consistency has paid off, and that's a second pole position for the ART Grand Prix team as well.
Critically, as well as Browning's issue, that is a big issue for Gabriele Mini. Finds himself in 15th position, not able to get the lap in, and equally, as you point out, Chris, Arvid Lindblad 22nd in qualifying as a result of that, and will have a lot of work to do through the races.
And it's big news for Leo Fornaroli, because it means he's now in 3rd place for the feature race. He's got Arvid Lindblad down in 22nd, as you mentioned. He's got Gabriele Mini down in 15th, and there's a question mark now next to Luke Browning, 7th place as well. So Leo Fornaroli, who dropped back in the points last time, he's now 26 points back, has a very good chance to bring himself right back in to this championship fight. Let's watch it again.
Such a challenge for the drivers, and it's just plain driver error on the way in. They've been struggling in there all day long. You see the Rodin off before him. Drivers were losing laps in there throughout qualifying, from Christian Mansell right at the beginning to Luke Browning right at the end, and the nature of the beach, the beast catching Luke Browning out. He finds himself in the outside wall. Luckily, not too much damage to the car, so they'll be able to get that back in and get him out for the races. And he will have, potentially, though, a lot of work to do in those 2 races.
Yeah, we will wait and see what happens there. But credit to Laurens van Hoopen and Nicolas Solov. And what a dramatic session in the end. Possibility of, well, we've got 2 of our championship contenders out of the top 12.
Absolutely. Shall we can get a feel for the way that the qualifying shaped up throughout the 30 minutes of qualifying. We're hearing there may well be some reinstatement of lap times lost early in the session, so we'll just take a breath on that full page for you for 1 second and make sure we get that as accurate as possible. The session will not be resumed though, and that is what you're seeing now. So you're not seeing cars take back to the racetrack, you're seeing them head back towards the support race paddock via the racetrack.
Let's give a word then to AIX Racing. Currently the only, well, we've had 9 out of the 10 teams on the podium this season. They've got a very good chance to make it 10 out of 10. They're going to have Tisanopo and Japuvazak, as long as the result stays as we see it on our screen currently. Got a pole position tomorrow. Josh Dufek in the top 12 as well.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from AIX. At one stage during that session, in the top 3 positions of the session. Brilliant stuff for them, and brilliant stuff for the drivers who haven't necessarily been demonstrating that form throughout the rest of the year so far. So we do have a provisional full page at this stage, Chris. Let's go for it.
Yeah, a provisional result, and let's go through it as we see it. Laurens van Hoopen takes his first pole position in Formula 3. Now the only driver to be in the top 12 in every session so far. Nicolas Solov alongside him to make it an all-ART Row 1. Leo Fornaroli, a big opportunity for him now this weekend to get himself well back in that championship fight. Noel Leon 4th, then Ramos. Dufek, a best result for him. Browning in 7th, but did bring out the red flag at the end. Megatunov 8th, Tramnitz 9th, Mansell, Voisin, a chance to add to his podium he got last weekend. Maybe even get to the top step. He's got Tisanopo and Japuvazak going off pole position. What a result for AIX Racing. Nikita Bedrin in 13th, and then we had Beganovic will feel bitterly disappointed there going fastest on that last lap. Mini He's got a lot of work to do now as the championship leader in 15th. Then Goethe, Esterson, Loke, Wirtz, Boyer. Fastest in practice, 20th. Zagazeta, Lindblad down in 22nd. Stenshorn, Wisniewski, Shields, Dunn, Stuka, Flirt, Smith. Montoya didn't really get a lap in. Well, that concludes qualifying. If that wasn't enough for you, of course.
Yep, F2 up next. Thanks to Jack. Thanks to everybody. We'll see you later for all the action. Bye-bye.